Lesson 2, the sedimentary rock cycle. Where we left off last time was focusing on weathering, and this idea of biological, chemical and physical weathering, the breakdown of rock into very small dust-like particles that eventually ends up getting washed downstream. The sedimentary rock cycle, i.e. how we create, or how nature creates, a sedimentary rock, is started with this process called deposition. As we can see here, very muddy water, and in fact it's not actually mud, it's sediment. We need to move away from calling it mud. It's now sediment, very small particles of rock, clay, limestone, building up in here. It falls into the water. As it falls into the water, gravity pulls the sediment down, so it comes out of the river, into the sea, lake, a large part of the river, and gravity is pulling it down and pulling it down. This first stage of the sedimentary rock cycle is known as deposition, i.e. rock is deposited, so depositing money in the bank, you leave it in the bank, rock is left on the bed of the sea or riverbed. We get this build-up, so the sediment's deposited, and we start to get this increased build-up, and this is known as sedimentation, i.e. these sediments are forming different layers. So we might have one year, it might be lots of clay in the soil, so there's a lot of plants that produce a lot of clay, and you get quite a light colour, you might get limestone, and all these different layers form this sediment, and this is the sort of second stage of the sedimentary rock cycle, known as sedimentation, the build-up of this sediment. And if we skip ahead to the end product, we see these amazing layers forming, all different colours, and they are real layers, they're very much in line with each other, and this is the end product of the sedimentary rock cycle, i.e. a sedimentary rock. The third stage of the sedimentary rock cycle is the stage known as compaction. As sediment is deposited, so it's chucked out and it's deposited, it lands under the force of gravity or land on the seabed or riverbed. Given enough pressure, because this all contains much, this is very small, it does contain a mass, and it builds up, the mass increases. As the pressure builds under the mass, we start to get it compacting, pressing down into the other layers. Given enough pressure, something quite impressive happens. Given enough pressure, cementation happens, i.e. it cements together. And what we see is apply pressure to these individual particles, this deposited sediment, and these naturally occurring salts in these sediments leach, so they come out into these gaps, and they fill these gaps. Given enough pressure, these then cement, so stick together, forming these layers of sedimentary rock. And this is the end product of the sedimentary rock cycle. We can see these fantastic layers occurring at each different level. Now, the reason I've called it a cycle here, rather than just the formation of sedimentary rocks, is because you can still see there's been weathering occurring here. Large amounts of weathering from the wind here has shaped it, or the water here. And the same thing happens, so it's a cycle. So weathering takes place, particles from the sedimentary rock washed into the river, flows downstream, it's deposited, and the cycle starts again.